What is up, podheads? Welcome to the Pod Is Slave podcast. This is episode 49. Believe it or not, it's been a wild ride and it's only going to get better. We're going to be nerding out today, but first I wanted to highlight our socials. You can find us at Twitter and Instagram, both at Pod Is Slave, so check us out there. Super active. All sorts of cool, nerdy content always going on. But also I wanted to highlight the email. We don't get a whole lot of emails because email's getting a little outdated, but if you do ever want to send us a message, podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. It's always open. We're always taking different questions and things like that. And speaking of which, Twan, we got some questions last time, right?
Yeah, we did. Episode 48 was our mailbag episode, round 2. And a lot of submissions. So we appreciate everyone that submitted questions. We were talking about it before this episode started that we have a fucking blast with those episodes. We've done 2 of them. We'll do more of that stuff. And you don't have to wait for the next one. If you can think of questions, like Nate said, email's always open, Twitter, IG. Yeah, anything news-related, records we want our opinions on, anything like that, throw it at us.
Yeah, I think I know why people don't email very much.
Why is that?
The sliding up in our DMs, guys. We get some cool DMs from people and some questions that way, too. So appreciated the people that reached out to us that way. And we're... The list is being compiled for round 3, which will probably happen next summer. So send them now. We'll put them down on paper or digital paper and be ready for it next summer when we do another round of the mailbag.
Yeah, keep them coming. Tell a friend, subscribe, comment, like. We've got a pod for that. Whatever fan you are of music, we have a pod for that.
Good point.
I feel like we've touched almost everything, and we keep expanding. So we got a lot on deck for what we're going to nerd out in the future Pod Is Slave podcast. But today we got a cool segment. We're going to deep dive on the Foo Fighters, which is somewhat a house band, I feel like, at the Pod Is Slave podcast. They just dropped a new album, so we're going to kind of go through that and their whole album release that they've had throughout their career. So it's going to be a fun one tonight. Stoked for that.
Yeah, we're going to rank them, right? We're going to tell you what number 10 is all the way down to number 1. So I'm sure I have bold take right now. We probably all have the same 10th record, and we probably all have the same first record. That's my guess.
Hey, speak for yourself, man.
Oh, this is just my guess. And we'll circle back at the end to see if I was right.
And it's great because they have 10 studio albums, so this was meant to be. But before that, we had a couple headlines we wanted to get to. I'm going to have Nate start us off with the first one because it involves his boy, Elon, and Neuralink. So, Nate, give me the explain it like I'm 5 breakdown of what's going on with Elon and Neuralink.
Absolutely. And happy to represent Elon Musk. The guy's crazy, but he's one of the smartest people in the history of human beings that I could probably attest to. One of his many inventions is the Neuralink. Neuralink is a microchip that's going to be implanted into your brain. So they're going to basically cut a circular 1-inch by 1-inch hole into your skull and implant a chip to help your...
I'm out on this already.
Yeah, you're out. Hold on, there's more.
Seacrest out.
The initial plans for this product is to help people with, any kind of decline in recognition. I guess, what's the disease where you lose your memory? Alzheimer's. Yeah, things like that. That's kind of like how it's going to be rolled out initially. But this product is very futuristic, as many of Elon's inventions have been. So what we've seen recently is this is going to eventually stream music directly into your brain, which is not far-fetched when you think about it.
So can I ask a dumb question?
Totally.
Say you get one of those, no one's even really discussed cost to my knowledge, but you get one in your brain. How do you pick the song? How do you change the volume? Is there volume or is it vibration? Like, help me out here, guys.
That's a great question. Yeah, man. Like, is it using your skull as the vibration? You know how all of our voices sound different to ourselves than they do to the rest of the world? And we all hate how we sound. And then we start a podcast and you're like, damn, I have to listen to myself every week. This sucks. But yeah, how is that going to work? And will it make those boring conversations with the people that at work that you don't want to talk to better because you can just turn some music on?
And actually, you know what I just thought of? What about kid? Like, what's the age cutoff? Because a kid could get one and cheat on every test.
That's true. Yeah.
You get fed, I'm almost thinking it's like a combination. Like, remember Google Glass? How like
Yep.
you operated it like, I guess, with your voice. I wonder if this is just plugged into your brain. You can tell how much I know about this. I'm just
Well, it's I think it's a very abstract idea. Like the fact that this is going to solve all these ills and fix and become this like on demand supercomputer inside your already, biological supercomputer. I think we're a long way away from point A to point Z where that happens. I don't know how we get there as far as that goes. But I mean, it's interesting if it's going to help out with some, Alzheimer's type things and other neurological conditions. If it does that, then yeah, okay, now I'm listening. But I don't mind putting in headphones, honestly.
Yeah, it's a little crazy when you think about it. Obviously, the goal is to help people, but it is a little creepy in a lot of ways. To answer your question, Tuan, you think about anything really, and you see the ad on Instagram, 5 minutes later. I think there's going to be a correlation there, where it's really, you don't even have to really put the commands in. It'll kind of know what you're thinking, kind of go to that song. Like I want to hear, or I'm thinking of the Foo Fighters, for instance. We're going to talk about them tonight, and I want a heavy Foo Fighters song, and it kind of just narrows it down to 4 songs or something and kind of goes on autoplay, and you can just you can say skip, or kind of like your AirPods, your Apple earphones, you just kind of tap it to go to the next song. You tap your head or whatever, So I think the craziest thing about this whole thing is the fact that it's inevitable, and which is kind of crazy. But when I'm not doing the Patio Slave nerd thing, I'm kind of geeking out on all Elon's projects. So I've been paying attention to this pre-launch. There was some public information on it prior to it being fully exposed and brought to the masses, and they're still figuring it out. But they've done trials on pigs, and they're going to be doing human trials by the end of 2021 of this year. So just like everything, the AI symbiosis is in full motion. It's just in a handheld device, and eventually it'll be in your brain. So it's happening.
Here's my hot take, which I think is not a hot take. It's very practical. This ain't coming out. There's no way this will see market. I mean, what if there's a problem with it? You call Neuralink customer support. You know what I mean? Like, what do you do? This isn't happening.
My brain's on fire, guys. Can you fix it?
Yeah, is there like a fan that cools the? I don't know enough about it, and maybe I'm just being negative about it.
I think we're being old fuddy duddies here, right? We're being get off my lawn. I'm never giving up my headphones. That type of thing. I think there's some merit to some of this. I'm not sure how much of this is going to work, but I mean, all these. If you had told me that I'd have a supercomputer in my hand 15 years ago, I'd be like, "What are you talking about?" So you never know, right? I mean, anything is possible. It's hard to say absolutely not to stuff.
That's the best way to look at it. And I do champion Elon Musk, so I don't want to, go the opposite direction and say I'm not understanding where you guys are coming from. But the best way to look at it, or any, product futuristic wise, is the fact that it's never, flash in the pan. It doesn't happen overnight. There's going to be a natural progression to get to the end game that we're talking about, where you're streaming music in your head simultaneously, or you're thinking of a song and it plays on automatically or whatever. It's really just I feel like all this stuff is just a matter of time, and it's weird talking about it now, but 10 years from now, it'll be so ingrained, whether it's this device or, jumping in a, not a floating car, but an electric car that's self-driving I think we're also about a year away from that. So all this technology is being built. It's really just about, regulatory approval. So self-driving cars is really being held up by regulatory issues, and same with this. As soon as they get FDA approval, this will roll out, believe it or not. So I understand where you're coming from, because it sounds insane, but it's actually going to go down.
So what if you have a really small head? Do you get a smaller one? And if you have like a really big head, you get a bigger one? What are the speakers like?
It's one size fits all, I believe.
Oh man, that may not work. That may not work. In the world that we live in today, nobody is one size fits all.
So obviously this is interesting stuff, but the tie to music is obviously the listening to music. Like, that's kind of one of the marketing things that's being thrown out there. But also Lil Uzi Vert, the rapper, said he's getting one.
And his wife, right, Grimes. She's an artist too.
So yeah, they're all about it.
Didn't little Uzi Vert just like put a diamond in his forehead too?
Yeah, so maybe that's the stepping stone. First the diamond, and now
literally a stepping stone. Yeah, so that's exciting. We'll throw a little water on Nate, and then we're gonna move on to our next our next topic here. This is something that I've been interested in because I've seen it more and more, and obviously from bigger artists, Taylor Swift is the one that comes to mind for me. She has been kind of rebranding the two albums she put out last year, and picking 4 or 5 songs from maybe one album and 2 or 3 from another, and calling them different collections, right? And making them playlists. They're just playlists. It's cool. It gives the artists a chance to kind of breathe life into something that already existed. So like I could see bands going back to their album from 7 years ago and then putting a couple songs from the most recent one together and saying these kind of fit together. Here's a playlist, and then giving it a collection name. I think this is a move Taylor saw coming, and more artists are going to do. What do you guys think?
Yeah, is this like a weekly thing she's doing?
She's been doing it now for a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Jeez, I mean, yeah. So she's put her. It checks a lot of boxes. It's a good way to promote the new album, keep it fresh, keep it on people's radars. It's a good way to keep her on people's radars, and it's more pennies in her pocket, the more streams. And obviously, we discussed in previous episodes how much her catalog's worth and the volume of streams that she generates. Yeah, I mean, this is like low-hanging fruit. It's like kind of a more recent greatest hits that she can just keep pumping out. Makes sense. Would this have happened without COVID? Probably not. She'd be out touring, or maybe this would supplement touring. Who knows?
You said it. You took the words right out of my mouth with the greatest hits thing, because I don't know if you've noticed on Instagram, Rage Against the Machine has been doing something on Spotify saying Rage Against the Machine greatest hits.
Oh wow.
I'm like, greatest hits. Like they never even put out a greatest hits. And I think we've talked about it on here because they kind of rage against that whole record machine, so they had found a way to avoid that greatest hits thing. But with the Spotify thing, same thing, because of COVID, like it's a way to recycle the music and get more spins and whatnot. And I just thought of it as, yeah, it's another greatest hits. It's really just the soup of the day. You know what I mean? These songs have already been played, people already know them. You're just kind of like repackaging it to like present it and get those spins up. And I've just noticed like all sorts of different tactics that we may not even like notice. You know what I mean? Like if you're watching a show on Netflix and you fall asleep, or you turn off the TV but the show continues to play, there's all sorts of tactics being thrown in where like there's more spins that are happening and more streams when really no one's even really paying attention. So that greatest hits, you might play it in the background and forget about it, or like you already knew that song, or you already played the album, but because it's packaged as a playlist, you're revisiting it a third time or an additional time for that reason. So
I think there's some merit to the greatest hits thing. I think there's also some merit to like dusting off some songs that maybe hadn't been, maybe needed a new life, and pitting them with songs that were already kind of big. I'm like, all right, here are these 2 songs that did really well on their original stream when the album came out, and this one didn't do as much. Like, let's get some people listening to that one, because maybe it was later in the album, maybe it was just a song that never hit, and let's get those into people's ears too, because this 6-song playlist is easy for a workout. You're gonna go for a half an hour run, bang, I'm going to listen to that playlist that Taylor just put out, or Rage Against the Machine just put out, or say the Foo Fighters do with a couple songs from The Color and the Shape and a song from There's Nothing Left to Lose, and et cetera, right? Like that's a good way to get some of those older songs that maybe don't get hit on the way that they used to because time has passed.
And there's so many angles with it, because you could go like Mood Booster Taylor. Like that could be the playlist. Yeah. Mood Booster Taylor, or, the November fall kind of thing going on, or like the heavy therapy. There's different angles you could do. Like this is the summer.
We do that every week.
The summer feel good Taylor mix. Yeah, this is. I don't know. I think other people have done it, but she's Taylor, so if she does it, she kind of
dictating the market, right?
She can exactly. So now she's the blueprint. So now we're gonna get like, summer 9-inch Trent Reznor summer edition playlist or something.
I think all of those are winter fall songs. Or pandemic.
You bring up a good point. You bring up a good point with songs that didn't maybe get the time of day. I'm just relating it to my own job. So we run a thing called gap reports, where certain markets aren't performing compared to other markets. So we put an additional focus on those markets, to kind of get them up to speed. And I think what you said is exactly probably what's going down metric wise, because they're like, you know what, we know the song should be hitting at the same level as the singles. It's equally as good, same producers, same singer, all that stuff. So let's just keep pumping this until it's, they're all hitting on all targets. So that
Well,
could
you're
be
trying to
very
find
accurate.
you're trying to find the area that needs a little love, right? Massage
Yeah.
that and see if you can't get a little more out of it. I got called by a credit card company today that I have a credit card with that I have not used in probably a year. And it's had a zero balance, whatever, just kind of hung out in my wallet, but doesn't get used. They called me and they're like, "Hey, why aren't you using it? Can you use it?"
They get all the data.
I'm like, "Hey guys, I'm all set. How about we, But that's the same idea, right? They're trying to find, let's squeeze that rock and see if there's a couple pennies in it.
I mean, when you think about it, it's like intelligent radio. It's like
Yeah.
radio just blasts shit out in every direction. This is like local WCYY knows I'm a Rage fan, so they direct the speaker into my house. It's like that same thing. That's crazy.
Totally.
Great call. Yeah. So that's what we think the ball's moving on that, right? We're gonna see more of that, especially from those bigger artists who have a massive catalog, and if they were to rebrand some of their stuff, people would eat it up.
Yeah, those two things tied into the Neuralink, tied into Spotify, listening to everything you're thinking. Like, you literally will have a moment, like a 1 second moment of depression, and you'll get like some kind of depressing song in your Neuralink.
Wait, you guys have seen The Matrix, right?
Yeah.
We're so fucked.
This doesn't end well, guys.
We're so fucked. All right, we want to hop into the main segment tonight.
Yes. Let's distract ourselves from the craziness.
Foo Fighters, yeah. So Foo Fighters dropped Medicine at Midnight. When you're hearing this, it's been a little over a week since that dropped. We obviously are fans of Dave Grohl and most of the things that he's done over his career. So we thought, instead of just giving you a report on what we thought about Medicine at Midnight, let's slot it in with all the other 9 albums and give you our top 10 in whatever form or fashion that it is. So, yeah, who wants to lead off with their number 10 Foo Fighters record?
Can I actually give an opening statement?
Ooh, yes, please do.
Yes.
A couple things. This was very hard.
Super hard.
That's one kind of punchline. Second punchline, this underscored how impressive their catalog is. And
I agree.
And lastly, there's not a dud in here. Every album has
Nope.
redeeming qualities that I think warrant a comeback to.
I would say the 10th album, because it's 10th, it doesn't make it bad.
Exactly. Yep. That's a good way to put it.
It's just not on the level of some of their other work.
Like the number 10 would mop the floor with like a lot of quote unquote good bands out there. Like they're good records, I think.
I noticed I enjoyed listening to them. Stuff that I hadn't maybe given as much time of day as the other stuff I listened to through today a little bit. And I just realized how much I liked the band and how approachable their rock songs are. Like, they know how to write a song, they know how to write a hook, they know how to write a chorus, they know how to, where the guitars need to go, where the drums need to go. Like, they're just good at music. And obviously from about midway through their career on, as a group, have honed it and made it into something where they can take different chances here and there, and it works.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like, my appreciation for this band increased from this deep study, to the point where I was like, is Foo Fighters my favorite band?
Right?
Like, shit, like, I like all this music, and some stuff I, didn't give the time of the day back then. And I mean, if you saw my notes, I crossed out this list so many times and moved things in different directions because I was like, oh wait, this was my second or third favorite album. Now it's like anyways, I don't want to give anything away, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's very easy to switch around, and it just shows, it really highlights their talent as a band. Very much so Dave Grohl, but I mean, as a band, tight, instrumentally, musically, lyrically, energy, different sounds, different genres. Like, I mean, they're an all-time band. I knew that, but this changed that for me. I was like, oh wow. When you look in the encyclopedia and just find solid rock band, like Foo Fighters should populate as number 1 now,
Yep.
So.
Well, and they're probably the biggest rock band still going right now, right? I mean, there aren't too many doing what they're doing today, especially where rock has kind of taken a backseat in popular music. They're still very popular, and rock still has its corners of the world. But compared to like where it was 20 years ago. It's a different landscape.
Totally. Yeah. And to highlight what you're saying, like, I think we talked about it last episode. Pearl Jam's my favorite band, but I mean, Foo Fighters, I think I like more their albums front to back more than Pearl Jam, so that's saying something right there. So,
All right,
yeah,
we're
it's
jumping to
crazy.
number 10. Who's got number? What wants to lead off with their number 10? I'll do it. I got it. I'm ready.
Do it. Yeah.
Concrete and Gold came out September 15th in 2017. I at the time didn't give it a ton of time. I really liked Run. I really liked The Sky's a Neighborhood. Listened through it again today because it's been a while since I had spun it. I picked up a few other songs that I liked. It's got its moments where they're kind of lulls and like I would skip if I were not doing homework on it. But this was my number 10.
I think you were right with the prediction. Was it Utone? Or no, Utone that said we might have the same 10 and 1?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mine is also Concrete and Gold, which is funny, but just because, I mean, I like to relate it to the time as well, like 2017 for me personally, and maybe there might be another part of the fan population that agrees that Foo Fighters like seem to go in these like, ebb and flows, where I think 2017 was kind of like, man, they were touring so consistently. I almost like got used to them. I got comfortable, they were so accessible that I saw them on these tours. But I mean, I wasn't really checking out the albums. I was kind of just going to the show. So I didn't give the album the time of the day. And it just didn't really, the singles didn't really grab me too much. And then revisiting today and to kind of, go back to what you were saying earlier, it's still an amazing album. It's still really solid. Yep. Just stacking against their other releases, it had to hit the 10 because there's just so much good music, but it's still actually decent. And revisiting it today, I was like, oh, it's actually better than I remember. So that's good.
Same.
I did not have Concrete and Gold at 10, so I'll save my assessment for that for when we get to the number I had it at. I had Sonic Highways.
Ooh.
We're transparent on this podcast. I didn't hear this. I'd never heard this album until we said we were going to do this episode. So I'm a, late to the party kind of guy. For me, nothing really stood out. It was a good album, not a great album. Definitely wasn't a bad album. It was a good album, but it's nothing I'd come back to. And there's a few albums that I hadn't heard. I would say there's maybe 3 or 4 I hadn't heard. I guess I'm more into their early stuff, but not because I didn't like the new stuff. I just never heard it. So Sonic Highways, definitely digestible. I think it's like, 8 songs?
Yep, 8 songs.
Yep. So that's my 10.
I'm not going to get too in depth because it's obviously a little higher for me. That one, I think, you didn't watch the HBO documentary that went along with that?
No, I know the story, but I didn't watch it.
Would probably change your mind a little bit, but I'll save it for when we get to it when I have it.
Yep.
All right, number 9. I had the new one, Medicine at Midnight. Now, this is only because I haven't listened to it enough. I think this one's going to grow on me. My second listen, I liked more than my first listen. My third listen, I like more than my second listen. Like, it's got some bangers on there that are going to be, like, slotted into the Foo Fighter canon that I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm going to come back to that. It's cool. It had a couple of vibes on it. Obviously, it's the dancey kind of vibe. It's crazy that this has been done for just about a year, and they were getting ready to drop it last year right now before the world ended. And we're going to go out on their 25th anniversary tour and, play this and get people going. And I saw Dave on Fallon a couple of days ago, and he was like, there was a plan. We were going to go nuts. We were going to have a party all summer and celebrate us being 25 years old and play these dancey hooks and enjoy ourselves. And all that ended. So hopefully that happens this summer or this fall. But yeah, I think this album's going. You talk to me in 6 months, this album's probably higher.
Interesting. My number 9 was Echoes, Silence, Patience, and Grace. And this was moved around quite a bit. So after some careful consideration, this made number 9. Like we were talking about earlier, doesn't mean it's a bad album. It's actually a fantastic album. But yeah, it just hit 9. I think this was another lull for me in terms of my fandom for Foo Fighters. I was used to them. I was going to the shows for the show and not necessarily the album cycle, but still a great album. And it got, like I said, it got moved around quite a bit. So to hit number 9, it got moved up, and I'll have to go into why later. But I think this album was a sweet spot for them in a lot of ways, but it just didn't quite, hit the mark to hit like the top 5, let's say.
So I also had Echoes at 9. And
wow.
It's interesting. Your recap is almost identical to mine, although I'm trying to think of like my trajectory with Foo Fighters. At this point in '07, I wasn't like going to listen to them on the day it came out. Like I feel like I'd maybe moved on a little bit, but like what was the album before this? In Your Honor was '05, and then
Yep.
Echoes was 7. But it's a good album. I almost pin it similar to Sonic Highways, where it's like I'm probably going to pick different records to come back to. But if a new band put this album out, like it would be a great album. It's just they're handicapped
Totally.
because of their excellence.
And I mean, not to jump the punchline for when I have this record, but The Pretender is an all-time Foo Fighters song.
Oh, totally.
All time.
And great video too.
Oh, great video.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember when that dropped.
Cool.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. It's funny you say that, Twan. Just because when I think about like what I was listening to in '07, it definitely wasn't this type of music heavy. You know what I mean? '07, this was like the start to my festival circuit. You know what I mean? In Bonnaroo and stuff. So there was a lot of indie stuff I was into. So it was like Foo Fighters was in the background, one of my favorite bands. But like, was I really like running to check their record out? Not really. I was kind of checking out what was coming out in '07 for new exciting music. So that's the perk of being a nerd, you know. Fringe benefit is like you get like this stuff that's always good, but you got this new stuff coming out, but you're always a fan of that. So great album. And I, like you said, you couldn't have worded it better. Like they're handicapped by their excellence, which is fantastic. It's a great way to put it.
All right. Number 8. Want to move on to number 8?
Can I start this one?
Yeah, do it.
So Tone, you said literally verbatim what I was going to say for Medicine at Midnight.
Mm-hmm.
It was an album that I skimmed last Friday when it came out, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to dig this. And then I listened to it in headphones, and I'm like, ooh, okay, I get it. And then I think I listened to it one other time, and I really liked it. I think this has big potential to move up because there's not a lot of filler, right? How many songs are on this? 9, 10?
9, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like it's super digestible. I don't know if there's any all-time Foo songs on this, but like Shame grew on me big time when
Me
I heard
too,
it.
man.
Yeah, when I heard it
Yeah.
live,
Didn't like it.
didn't like it at all. Yeah.
Nope.
And now it has that like I can hear some Led Zeppelin in the chorus a little bit. Do you guys hear that at all, or
Totally.
is that just me?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. No, actually not the chorus, the bridge. I think it's in the bridge.
Yes. You definitely.
Definitely not the chorus. It's in the bridge. But yeah, this could be a grower, not a shower. You know what I mean?
I completely agree with you. And it's there was Shame when they were on SNL. I was super excited to like hear that. I stayed up late, watched the whole thing, and I was like, oh man, I'm bummed. Like, is this not going to be good? Like, are we putting another Foos record out that I'm like, okay, it's okay, I like it, but I don't love it. No, I think this one's going to end up growing. I wouldn't be shocked if this one ends up like 6 or 5 for me down the road.
And fan reception's been very positive from what I saw online.
It's funny. All this conversation's so funny because mine is lower in the list for sure. So I'm not going to say what it is yet because my number 8 was Sonic Highways. And Tone, you've been telling me to check this album out more recently, so I did actually check it out in mainly preparation for this episode. But ironically enough, I had HBO, but I never checked out that documentary, and this might have been moved up if I had checked that out because I'm obviously when I'm fully immersed in the story of how these things go down, it kind of changes their trajectory for me. So I should probably check that out, and this might move up from 8 to 4 or something like that. But for now, it's 8, and it's another one of those things where it's like I got used to them. I was getting a little greedy, you know, like this was just additional to everything else that was coming out that was amazing. I'm trying to think what year was this album?
This came out in 2014.
2014. Okay, so I was in Cali at that point. So yeah, I'm just getting bombarded with so much amazing music, a lot of live music. I went crazy when I moved out here. So literally, it was just ancillary to everything else. I'm like, nice, more Foo Fighters, great. And it became one of those things where it's like, nice, a reason to see them live. You know, it's like really just comes down to that. Like, I'll check out the album. Yeah, I'll check it out. Am I going to play it every day or, you know, habitually? Probably not. And mainly because they've been around for so long. And that kind of goes to my comment earlier about Pearl Jam. It's like they put out new music and I'm so stoked that they keep going. But am I really listening to that album on repeat? Not necessarily, you know?
Yeah.
Nate, this is the Foo Fighters episode. We'll do Pearl Jam another time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eddie, for listening, though. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Eddie listened to us in Hawaii, right? we
Yeah,
had
we got a
a
Hawaii
we
listener.
had a Hawaii listener that popped off either yesterday or the day before, and we think it's Eddie. It's got to be Eddie Vedder. So Eddie, thank you for listening.
Oh man, yeah. But on a high note, like the whole story from what I've read on Sonic Highways is super cool. You know, because I've moved a lot around the country, and I know that there is different sounds coming out of different parts of the country, and that shapes the food, that shapes the music, that shapes the vibe. So I appreciate that, and that's another reason why we are doing this episode is because Dave Grohl is truly a nerd, and he's one of the only people that I can think of that's bringing that to the music level and putting out albums that showcase that alone. And that's what this album is hey, these songs were constructed in different states where different sounds come out of New Orleans than they do in West Hollywood compared to Detroit and stuff like that. So I think that's super cool. And the fact that he did it. And I mean, if he keeps that cadence, he can just make different nerd albums with different kind of themes. And that's kind of what he's done, you know? So
Yep.
it hits 8, but it's not because it's a bad album. It's just where it stacks up.
Yeah, I agree. I'll save my thoughts for I have it higher. So number 8 for
Nice.
me was In Your Honor, which has another all time Foo song, Best of You, which is just a great Foo Fighter song. But it's a double album. It's a little fillery at times, and there's some spots that I'm just not bored, but like I wish it had a little more. I wish it was a little more tight for me to have this ranked higher. But I mean, DOA is a great song. Cold Day in the Sun, where Taylor is the singer, I think is pretty cool in the back half. It led to them doing that tour, I think, right, where they played a lot of acoustic songs. Skin and Bones, I think was
yeah.
the
Yep.
which is an awesome record, live record. Go listen to that.
Yeah.
If you pay attention, last week it was on our that was the last song on our playlist, and it was the hint for what this episode was about. So that it's a good record. It has enough filler for me to have it down this far on the list.
I have it higher. I'll save my thoughts.
Nice. All right, number 7 then. Who's up for number 7? Nate, you want to lead off?
Perfect. Because my number 7 is In Your Honor.
Oh, hey.
Yep. And this moved around quite a bit too. And this was way higher actually at one point before I switched it to number 7. And I understand where you're coming from. It is a long album. It's a double album, half acoustic, half rock, which I'm a Gemini, so I can appreciate that it's, you know, kind of dual personality in that sense. But I'm a huge advocate for acoustic music. You know, like I think I've talked about Alice in Chains, their Unplugged album on here. So it's like to hear those music stripped down like that and to make a full album from it. I mean, just another reason, another nerd piece of Dave Grohl where he just had an idea and he's like, you know what? I'm going to make half an acoustic album and half a like a pretty heavy rock record and combine it and have it be a conducive piece of work, which I mean, I feel like only he does that. I mean, it's an idea that I feel like many people probably have, but he actually executes on it. And I do think it's really good. Straight through all the first half of this album, disc 1 is fantastic. And the second half, maybe the only reason it's not like a listen through is because it's like literally 2 different personalities. So it's like if you're having a drive on a Sunday in the desert or something, like I'll probably spin the acoustic version. And the rock one, I'll probably play it on the way to a Foo Fighters show or something, you know? So that's probably the only reason why it maybe shouldn't be 2 records, but that's actually why it is 1 record, because it's supposed to be that, you know, 2 sides of Dave Grohl. The guy's a metal guy, he's a rock guy, he's a, you know, soft rock guy. So I think this is similar to Sonic Highways, where it's like, hey, I have this idea and I'm just going to do it and I don't really care, and people like it, great. If they don't, you know, I did it. And that's just like true nerdery. I think it's so cool we're doing this on Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters, because he is a real nerd.
So 7, I had Concrete and Gold. So this was one that I hadn't heard actually until we said we're going to do this segment. And the interesting thing is I love the production on it, because to me it feels like it was recorded in a garage, and I did some digging, and there's actually a different album that's recorded in a garage, which
Yep.
I would never have thought that. So it was interesting to me. But sonically, it has that, it doesn't sound like the Black Keys, but it has that production of like the Black Keys, I feel like.
Totally.
And I feel like
It's
that
a
was
little bluesy, right?
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of blues tinge.
And I love the sound of it. And again, no Sure Shot singles that stood out, which I think helps it. Like it's a cohesive unit of songs, which I liked more than Echoes, Sonic Highways, and then for now I liked more than Medicine.
Number 6, or not number 7, right? My number 7.
Yeah, you're number 7. Yeah.
My number 7 is Echoes, Silence, Patience, and Grace. So similar to Nate, I think you said when this came out, it was not on your radar as much because you were kind of doing the festival folky type thing. For me, I was listening to them. And a few other bands, but they were kind of at the forefront for me. So I spent a lot of time with the first half of this record in my car. I'd get in the car, start on the Pretender, and go. And that was wherever I ended up was where the album ended for the day. And then sometimes I listened to the back half depending on where I had to go after. So not a lot of long drives. It was just to and from college and to and from my job. I really liked the Pretender. I think is a top 3 or top 4 Foo Fighters song. It's just an amazing Foo Fighters song. Let It Die is great. Come Alive is great. Those are really good Foo Fighters songs that kind of round it out. There's some filler on this one too that I don't love, but that's why I have them where they are with this record.
And all those songs are first half songs, so that makes sense.
That's why
you wore it out.
Even those filler songs, though, like if you heard them at a concert, you'd be like, "Sweet, deep cut." You know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
Because it's still like a solid song. So that's why it's like what you were saying earlier at the entry of this episode. It's like, well, they don't really make bad music, you know?
No.
This isn't really a go to the bathroom song. If anything, like a take a pee song at a concert is like maybe a single you've heard too many times, not necessarily a deep cut. So,
especially if you've seen it live already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen them, Tone?
Yeah, Nate and I saw them. I've seen them once. Nate, you've probably seen them more than once, right?
A ton. I actually made some notes to talk about at the end of the segment because every show I've seen from them has been amazing. Yeah,
we can hit that at the end. I've seen them.
I've never seen them. Because they came to Portland with the Red Hot Chili Peppers in '99. I missed that.
Yeah, forever ago. I missed that too. And then they were in Lewiston, I think, in what, '97?
No, it was a State Theater.
Was it State Theater in '97?
'97. Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
State
all right.
Theater.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that at the end. Actually, you know what we should do? We should, like, in the middle, after we get through our top 6 or our bottom 6, do all the odds and ends and then do our top 5.
That's a good call. Yeah.
All right. We up to, are we all on 7 or are we up to 6?
Going to 6.
All right,
6,
who wants to go first?
I'll start us off. I had In Your Honor. So this is, I get the reasons that I think Tone, you already had them, right, Tone?
Yep.
Yeah, so I totally get it. What carries this is Best of You. Like that, to me, that one song makes this album better than Sonic, Echoes, Medicine, Concrete. I love that song. DOA is great. Collectively, though, it does have some misses, and it does drag on with the acoustic stuff. And I never owned it, but was it 2 CDs or just...
Yeah, it was
a double album.
Yeah, so I never really got into the acoustic stuff, but for the rock side, the singles carry it enough where it's solid. Number 6 for me.
And I would say the acoustic, I never listened to that one a bunch either, but it led to that awesome live show and that awesome live record. So I'm okay with it.
Absolutely. Plus, like you said, like the live album where it's an acoustic tour. Rob, guest on here. What number, Tone?
17.
What's Rob? 17. We were contemplating going to that acoustic tour in Boston at the Wang Theater.
The Wang Theater, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and we didn't go to it. And ever since, I was like,
me too. I think we were all talking about it at the same time because I wanted to go to that show so bad.
You know, I think part of me was thinking that was going to be like a recurring thing, but no, obviously it was for the tour cycle.
Didn't Frank Black of the Pixies open for them?
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah.
Damn.
Why the fuck didn't we go to that show?
I know. I love the Pixies too. But they did tour on that album beyond that acoustic tour because I saw them open for, what was it? Or no, never mind. It was the Rockin' Tours open for Bob Dylan, but other Bob Dylan dates, it was the Foo Fighters opening for Bob Dylan with their acoustic set. So they kind of toured that acoustic almost as a separate leg, which is kind of neat.
All right. I'll give my number 6. I might regret this, but it's self-titled. It's the first record. I really like. I liked it a lot more than I remembered liking it listening through for this. And there was more on there that I didn't even realize that I liked until we listened through to this again, you know? So obviously the big songs, This Is a Call, I'll Stick Around, Big Me, For All the Cows. Those were the big ones. I really liked I really liked Good Grief listening through again. I was kind of surprised at how much I liked that one and a few others that towards the back half of the record. But I banged this out today during a workout and I was like, yeah. And that's one that sounds like it was made in a garage. And this was one that Dave did by himself under the name of the Foo Fighters to kind of disguise that he was who he was. So people didn't, they took it at face value and didn't take it for the drummer of Nirvana put a record out. So if you've checked out the documentary Back and Forth, he goes into in depth on that. So really, really good. But the top 5 for me were better. So that's how this ended up 6.
And he produced it too. Like yeah, it's crazy. I that's new news to me. I didn't realize that back when I was 9 years old when it dropped.
Yeah, right.
Before we were fully nerds, we were like almost
Baby
we were
nerds.
kind of nerds.
On the 4th of July, no less. A Tuesday in July in 95.
So I have that much higher, and I'll leave it at that.
I could see that. Knowing you, I could see that.
Well, mine was actually the same. Number 6, Foo Fighters, self-titled album, debut album. And this moved around a lot. And when I was writing it down, when I was going through this like crazy manic changing the direction of each album, where it states or whatever, I can't recall, but I want to say that we had talked about this on the pod where I put this at a higher rank. I might have. I don't know what it was.
I
but
think it was a 3-album run conversation, and you put this in there.
Yep. That was it.
Yeah,
I'm
with
trying to
Greg.
recall what it was. But yep. But it did land at 6. And I mean, it's the foundation for the band. It's the first album, or sorry, Dave, because it was essentially a solo album at first. And re-listening to it today was amazing because it was another one of those like time travel things where it's like my brother had it, so long ago that I didn't really understand what was going on. Didn't understand music appreciation like I do now, of course. So I wanted to rank it lower, but I mean, they just have so much stuff that it couldn't. But it definitely brought me back, and it definitely showcases, his foundation with the Beatles. There's a lot of Beatles-esque stuff in there. I think I said it earlier on the last episode where Weezer Pinkerton, like the Butterfly song is a Dashboard song. I feel like this is Big Me is a Weezer song. I feel like.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But it's a fantastic album because you have Big Me, which is a very like poppy Beatles Weezer song. But then there's other songs on this album that are straight up super heavy, So I almost feel like this is appropriate as a debut album because it kind of like shows that like this guy's going to go in so many different directions throughout his career, and he definitely has. So it's number 6, but I wanted to rank it lower, but it's fantastic, and it really just brought me back to those early days. Like, I don't know what this is pretty cool. What's this album cover? There's like some weird like retro space gun on there, like
Phaser gun.
yeah.
So yeah, we're halfway through. We're gonna take a intermission, and let's reminisce about some shows. So I've never seen them, which I regret. I've had a few opportunities to see them. It just never happened. But I feel like they're a band that will continue once this whole world gets back to normal. They'll be back out there, and I'll probably make it a point to see them.
I gotta ask, what was the reason for not going to those shows?
I don't know. Couldn't tell you. I think obviously like the '99 Civic Center show, I was probably just too young.
Yep.
And then probably didn't know about like that acoustic one I didn't know about. But again, everything's a show regret in 2021.
Everything.
True.
I saw him once with Nate and my brother in Boston in November of 2011, I believe, on tour for Wasting Light, which we haven't gotten to yet because we all like
Neither
it.
one of
Apparently,
us,
it's in our top 5s. Yeah, but yeah, that was Nate coming back from doing Harvest. I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but Nate coming back from doing Harvest out west in Northern California for wine. You were working for a winery, right, Nate?
Yeah, in Sonoma County. Yeah, like you said, harvest is once a year. So grape harvest, the grapes are ripe. So you pick, or you have people pick them for you, and then you crush the grapes and you make wine. And happens once a year. So I went out there to do that, part of my like wine and spirits journey, and came back and flew into Boston.
And everybody that I had driven down to the show went in. Our buddy Rob, the episode 17 guest, my brother, a few other friends that had come down in my car, but we made room in the car for Nate to come home with us. And I met Nate in the parking garage next to the garden, the Fleet Center, I think at the time, but the TD Bank Garden in Boston. And Nate took a cab or the T or whatever to North Station, met me in the garage, and we cranked a couple California beers in my car before the show.
Nice.
That was pretty sweet.
It was awesome.
That was very much a, I don't want to say rock star moment, but I remember thinking like, I didn't have a ticket to this show. I was traveling, so like going straight to a show is just not priority, you know, even at that age. And I had my girlfriend at the time, like waiting for me in Maine, you know, like coming back from Harvest, being gone. And Rob actually was at that show too, and I think he got the record rep to put me on the guest list. So it was kind of like inevitable.
Yeah, I
at
don't
that
know how
point.
you
Like,
got in, man. I just had tickets because they were a birthday present.
I think he was able to secure one ticket. So kind of last minute came together. Like I'm flying into Boston, about to jump on a bus to get back to Maine. No, you're on the guest list now. Just go straight to the TD Garden. I was like, shit, I have my luggage with me. Like,
Damn.
But like you said, Tony, I brought some beers.
Car. Yeah,
brought some beers from California. Did a little quick pregame. Rolled in. I think the show started. One of those weird things where I rolled in, and the show started almost immediately. Incredible show, and it was actually the tour closer. That was the last date of the tour.
Was it?
Yeah.
That show was badass, and I mean, the only problem was I had to drive, so I had like 2 beers in the car with you before, and maybe one at the show over the course of 3 hours, and drove us home. But it was a blast, and 3 hours. Dave's a madman, running all over the place, just playing badass songs, and they're rocking out. It was a good time.
Any opener for that one?
I don't know. I can't remember honestly. There probably was. I think I was in the car. I think I was in the parking garage with Nate.
Yeah.
I know who was the opener. I think we missed it because I think we literally walked in as the Foo Fighters came on stage. It was probably someone big, but yeah, man, that was actually one of the ones I wrote down with a bunch of others. But you kind of told that story. Other ones, I think I talked about it on here. Dave Grohl's birthday party at the Forum in LA.
Episode 8, if you want, go listen to episode 8.
Yep, episode number 8. Won those tickets, tried to get them, wasn't able to secure them. Went to some club show here in San Diego at the Casbah, where Nate Mendel, the bassist for Foo Fighters, was launching his solo career called Lieutenant, and talked to him at the bar for a little bit and tried to get on the guest list for this show. I don't think he read my note. Ended up winning him on the radio station anyway, and was one of the best shows I've ever seen. So that was that. Other ones that I saw, so not to rub it into one, but I've seen them a ton. Foo Fighters at Irving Plaza in New York City was a club show.
Damn, that's tiny. Yeah.
Also sold out.
And you have receipts for that one because there's a picture of you and Dave that we've seen.
That's outside of the venue. So the whole band was having dinner at the restaurant attached to Irving Plaza, and they were like at a window seat. So like me and a bunch of fans were like, "Oh, that's the fucking Foo Fighters." So I got a picture with Dave, hung out with Taylor for a little bit. Yeah, it's cool.
Nate's like, Sharpie 1, Sharpie 2, sign my stuff.
Well, funny enough, I didn't have anything on me because I was just trying to get in the show. I didn't have anything with me. But as soon as I saw them at the restaurant, Irving Plaza is in Union Square in New York City. So there's a Virgin Megastore there, or at least there was. So I ran to that store, grabbed Color in the Shape, and ran back. And by that time, they already went into the venue. I was like, fuck.
Damn.
Yeah. So I was hoping to get something signed. Actually, I think I got Taylor to sign it. And that's it.
You got a picture with Dave. I mean.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beside the point, Toad. I wanted to get the Color in the Shape signed.
I have some killer photos from that show somewhere in my nerdery bins. But that was cool just to see them in such a small show. It was oversold, but they had production hold seats. So if you waited in line at Irving Plaza and you were patient enough, basically, like when they realized that certain guests of the band aren't going to show up, they ended up releasing these production hold seats. And I was one of 4 people that got let in for like an oversold show, basically.
That's awesome.
So I was by myself. Amazing show. They were at the top of their game of that tour. I think that was actually promoting Echo's Silence, Patience, and Grace 07. Yeah, I was in New York. That makes sense.
The other, instead of jumping into more live stuff, the one thing I wanted to call to arms here was their music videos are fucking awesome.
Oh, totally.
Do you like Big Me? Do you like the Big Me? Really?
I think I watched it the other night, and I was like, that was kind of part of the reason I was like, let's do the Foos. Like that video was, I mean, it's stupid. It's funny. It's a Mentos commercial.
It's a Mentos commercial, yeah.
But that's kind of how it started, right? Like that one, and then the one with Tenacious D, Learning to Fly, fucking amazing.
Yep.
It's such a great video. And even Everlong, where they just like Taylor or Dave or both will dress as women. Like it's just funny.
Say, yeah. Doesn't he have like braces in that?
Yes, yeah, and in the Learning to Fly video, he has braces. Yeah. He's himself too. They're all themselves, but they're all dressed as other people. obviously Tenacious D. They have a relation. Dave has a relationship with the guys from Tenacious D, and it's a they just make great music videos. Whether they're straight rock and roll, like The Pretender, where there's riot gear and all that stuff, or they're doing a parody where they're, pretending to be pilots and flying a plane. It's great.
It's very interesting because like I think we all got into them in the moment in '95, and Dave he'd obviously come off of Nirvana, but it was interesting because the "I'll Stick Around" video was kind of gritty and like a little dark. So you go from Nirvana to that, which you look at the "Smells Like Teen Spirit" video, it's kind of almost the same vibe ish. But then they go from "I'll Stick Around" to the "Big Me" video. So you're like,
Yep.
what's going on? And like those songs sound like they're from different bands.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
Totally. And "Big Me" is a Weezer song. You're right. Or maybe that's where
Right.
Weezer got their Pinkerton vibes.
And that was another show that I wrote down, was the Foo Fighters and Weezer joint headline show with the Hot Hot Eat opening in Connecticut. Another one of those where I like walked in at the moment. And then Foo Fighters Cal Jam Festival appearance twice in a row. But all these like hit like my top favorite shows of all time. So not only do they make amazing music, their live shows are freaking sweet.
All right, we get into the top 5. Let's do it.
All right, top 5. Why don't I start it? Because I'm talking right now. I'm gonna go one by one. So I feel like I was gonna be in the minority out of the three of us to have them this album this high, but it came out in 2002, and that's when I was like really, really into them. So I got into them in the moment, and I re-listened to this album today, and I had an epiphany. So I've talked about Crime in Stereo on this podcast a million times. Whenever I've listened to their Is Dead album, there's 2 songs that remind me of the Foo Fighters, and I could never remember why. Well, the song Low, which I think is the second song off this album, I wish I knew the name of the Crime in Stereo song, but we'll put it on the playlist. The instrumentals sound exactly the same. It's crazy. So like I can see why I was kind of drawn to this. But yeah, cohesive album, loved it in the moment. I love the simplicity of the visuals of it with the black and white. Like it hits a spot for me. Number 5, one by one.
I'm gonna agree with you, Twan. I had number 5, one by one. Moved around quite a bit as well, but hit number 5 for me. And all the things you just said, I agree. Simplicity was huge into them. I mean, we were pretty much graduating high school at that point, so it was like, access to a car, debit card, graduating high school, and then new Foo Fighters album, which was fantastic. And I feel like they were kind of like in their element at the time, even though like they kind of differ on that opinion. But I mean, this album is a front to back album, I think, So yeah, it was good. It was kind of like a good time to be a fan of the band, and they still seemed somewhat underrated at the time. So
I'm going to do my number 5 and then jump right into my number 4, just because it will fit, and you guys will see why in just a second. My number 5 is Sonic Highways. I think if you watch the HBO documentary, you'd like it more. It might move up your list a little bit. I also like that they worked with Zach Brown on Congregation, I believe, in Nashville, and there's a 4-song Zach Brown EP where Dave Grohl is heavily involved, and that's an awesome Zach Brown EP. And I think it may have led to a really cool Zach Brown song with Chris Cornell, Heavy as the Head. So yeah, there's some cool ideas there that happened because I think of this record, on top of the fact that the documentary is great. And if you can get one of your favorite bands to go to a different city, explain the song for 40 minutes, and then play the song, have a video or whatever, that's really cool. And I ate that right up in 2014 when that came out. My number 4 is also One by One. So
right there,
we all love this record, right? It's a great record. They don't love it, and I think the fans do. And I think it's very, the dichotomy there is a little interesting, that they've like moved to Virginia, where Dave's from, and put this album together and ended up not really liking it. But One by One was huge. That's another all-time. All My Life, is huge. It's another all-time Foo Fighters song. The Closer, Come Back, is one of the best closing songs on any Foo Fighters record, and just a great closing rock song, period. Go listen to that one. It'll be on the playlist, I'm sure. Just a cool record. I think they did it. And Times Like These is a massive song. They were doing their thing here, even if they didn't like it in the moment. It's a great record.
So little fun factoid, which I'm real-time learning, is Ray Pettibon, he's the one that's responsible for like the Black Flag logo. He did the cover art for One by One.
Wow.
So it's like that simple, just grabs you. You're like, all right, what's going on there type of thing. It's interesting.
I just learned that. I did not know that.
Me either. All right, who wants to give their 4?
You go, Nate.
Hot take. Number 4, Medicine at Midnight.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you hadn't slotted this one in yet.
Yeah, and it just came out, and I was on a little mini road trip, as I do on the weekends, to kind of get away from the city and enjoy the nature out here in California. And I think it's the best way to listen to a new album. So I was like, it's almost like this perfect storm, like nice new album on the road, got some time, got the landscape to kind of help the album tell the story in a sense, in a nerd way, I guess you'd say. But it was a first listen for me. And I think part of the reason was it seemed like I was listening to a concert. So I kind of talked about this on the last episode where, like, what makes me happy on a Friday afternoon is listening to live bootlegs, or any day of the week. And this album, the first time I heard it, I played it, and I played it super loud in the car while I was driving. And I felt like I was at a Foo Fighters concert with brand new material that I'd never heard. And I didn't skip any songs. And the whole time I was like, I rarely say this, but like I would actually pay to see this album played in full, because it just seemed like it went very, streamlined, conducive. So yeah, and it hit number 4, which was crazy because I moved this around quite a bit, but number 4 is huge because I never thought that anyone could put out an album this late in their career and be high ranked like that. But yeah, I enjoy it a lot. I like this album a lot. I listened to it again today, and I stand by it.
It's interesting. I kind of did the same thing. Like I had it at one point as high as 6 maybe, but then I was like, am I out kicking this now because it's new? You know what I mean? So I slotted it at 8, but again, potential to move up.
I could totally see this being 6 or 5 for me down the road for sure.
It's like the whole Deftones thing. Like, where do you stick ohms?
Yep.
You got to digest it. So 4, I had. This is interesting because this is an album that I just heard for the first time in prep for this episode. Yeah, Wasting Light. So
Nice.
First, I've listened to it twice now. So things that jumped out. It's definitely an intentional and like dialed in album. It's more rock and upbeat than some of the other records. And this is the album that I was hinting at earlier that I guess it was recorded in Grohl's garage.
Yep. With Butch Vig.
Butch Vig, yeah, I saw that too. It's just crazy. And this was the return of Pat Smear, I guess. He was out of the picture for a little bit. Standout song is White Limo. White Limo's awesome. Easily a top 10. And it's crazy, like, when you hear... like I must have listened to 100 Foo Fighters songs in the last week, but this is one where I was like, I want to hear that one again. You know what? Screw Sonic Highways. I'm going to come back to this one. So yeah, Wasting Light came out in 2011, number 4.
I have that higher. I'm going to wait.
Same.
How much higher?
Well, we're running out of spaces. I think we're up to 3, right? Because I did my 4, you guys did your 4, so I'll do my 3. There's Nothing Left to Lose. Great Foo Fighters record. It's mellow in spots. It's heavy in spots. It's front to back for me. There's just great grouping of songs here. It's Stacked Actors to start, just a cool song. Breakout was on a movie. I can't remember the name of the movie. Was it Orange County? Was it on Orange County? It was on one of those movies around that time, right?
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
Learn to Fly obviously is an all-time Foo Fighters song. Next Year was another it was a song that was on a TV show. I think it was Ed on NBC back in the day. And I remember this popping up randomly, and I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, yeah, that was the theme to the show Ed that I used to watch here and there. She's like, who are you? And why do you know this random shit? But sure enough, it was. So yeah, this is just a great record. I really, really enjoy it. And it's my number 3.
Unbelievable.
Is it also your 3?
It's also my number 3. 1999. I'm a big advocate for 90s OGs. I was huge into this band at the time. I think we kind of reminisced about it earlier. I missed them on that Chili Peppers tour in Maine, co-headlining at the Civic Center and also the State Theater show leading up to this. So I was huge into them and missed both tours, and both were sold out. So I mean, I guess I wasn't as aggressive back then. But yeah, man, this album's amazing. Stacked Actors might be like my favorite Foo Fighters songs in general. Learn to Fly, Breakout, even like the deep cuts I love Aurora.
Aurora's great.
Um,
Yep.
MIA is amazing. Generator is amazing. Like some, or I guess Generator was a single, but yeah, I remember this album. I think we talked about it on here. Lechmere. I bought this at Lechmere, and it came with like a tattoo, like one of those fake tattoos that you put on your. So I did it on my neck, just like the album cover.
Yes.
But yeah, man, like talk about like quintessential 1999 album, like turn of the century, and understood what was going on in rock music at the time, was fully ingested or fully committed to what was going on at the time, and just bummed I didn't see the tours to promote this. But yeah, it's number 3 for me. Huge fan. I was literally like at the top of my game in terms of fandom, so I was so bummed I didn't see the shows. But this album's so good.
So, you guys ready for this? I also had this album at 3.
Wow.
Whoa.
Another album I was big into in the moment, and that helps so much because, like,
Yeah.
who knows, if I was seeking them out for Concrete and Gold, maybe that would be even higher, But yeah, the singles carry it. I mean, Learn to Fly, Breakout, those are 2 top 10, I think, Foo's songs. The artwork's simple. It's like, how did that end up being we always talk about the how and the why, like how did that end up, whose neck is that? You know what I mean? It's just so many questions, but the album's undeniable. Yeah, I mean, every record that I've mentioned up to this point, I think there's a big gap, a huge gap between this and even Wasting Light. So there's nothing left to lose, number 3.
Nate, what's your number 2? I have an idea.
Ooh. Yeah.
It's probably my number 2 too.
Number 2, Wasting Light, and almost got number 1. But yeah,
Did
number
it really?
2, Wasting.
Wow.
It came so close, man. I didn't cross it out, but I was like, this should get number 1. But no, number 2, Wasting Light. So much positive connotation to this album and this release. 2011, right?
Yep. 11.
So I was like prepping to move to Cali. I mean, it was a little premature, but I knew I was going to get out there at some point at this time for sure. Basically because of that wine harvest that I had done. And that tour in Boston that you were talking about, Tone, that was for this album, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was that touring cycle. So that all makes sense. Yeah, huge into the band. I just love this album. The single, what's the first single off the album? Can't remember. But regardless, it's a full-on rock album.
It was Rope.
Was Rope the first single?
It was Rope, I think. But regardless, this album just hits all cylinders. Like for me, like every song's good. It plays well. It's loud. It's like somewhat late in their career, so you're almost surprised that they're able to put out an album this solid this far in their career. And then you see them live on the tour and they're just as energetic. And it's like it almost lifted you up. It was almost like a Tom Brady moment. You're like, this guy's still doing it? Holy crap. Like Dave Grohl is the fucking man. Yeah, so it hits number 2, and I'm looking at it right now. It's like I might move it to number 1, but I think I'm gonna keep it at number 2.
Yeah, it's hard to dethrone what we both have at 1, I think, but I also have this as number 2. And Nate, I know you watched it because we watched it together, the back and forth, the documentary around this record, the making.
Oh
of
yeah,
it,
yeah.
and kind of the history up till that point of the band, and then the making of this record. The first half, I think, is like Dave's history, and then the band coming together and how this all happened, and this album being made in the garage at his house with Butch Vig and Bob Mould coming in from Husker Du, and Chris Novoselic coming in for a song. Like they really went all out. It was just a badass record. There's not a bad song on it, and this was the record. I think Walk was a single, right? Like halfway through.
Yep.
And I remember telling you, Nate, that I know you want Eddie to be the new Bruce Springsteen, but it's Dave Grohl. I'm sorry, and I still stand by that. Eddie is not the. Eddie's like the. Eddie's the Neil Young to Dave's Bruce Springsteen. Sorry, bud.
I think I can agree with you. Finally, it's
finally,
like he's like the Bruce Springsteen / Tom Brady. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Twan, what's your 2?
Guess.
Self-titled.
It's self-titled, and it's kind of crazy. I actually had this when I was prepping for this episode. I had this as low or high, however you want to look at it, at number 5 at one point, and then I re-listened to it, and I was like, okay. So I was kind of transported back to being 10, 11, whatever it was, and I'll Stick Around video. It's like probably at that age one of like the heavier songs that you've kind of been introduced to, and it just kind of brought me back. But this has a deep cut top 5 Foo's song for me. Any guesses?
No.
Could be top 3.
Give it to us.
Top 3.
Weenie Beanie.
Weenie Beanie.
Oh, nice.
I
Yep.
mean,
Wow.
it's almost like an 80s punk song. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
he leans into that big time. I mean, it could have been a Nirvana B-side, you know what I mean? It's just a cool song that I appreciate more now than back in the day. But again, it's one that I owned the record when it came out, or the CD. And who knows? Ask me tomorrow. This could be a 4.
So, in listening to you talk about, I know that's kind of your come up with music is liking that punkier, heavier kind of music that this kind of fits in, right? And Dave Grohl grew up in the DC area where that was kind of a thing. And if you watch Sonic Highways and you see when they make Feast of the Famine, that comes from that time and that place.
You think it jumped for me?
Yeah, I think it would make a little more sense to you because that's how that happened. But that's what this album is, right? It's him, garagey, punky,
Yeah.
fast and loud. I'm a drummer, but I'm gonna blow you away with everything else too because I can. Like I'll just I'll melt your face off right here. Let's go.
The other thing too is like I can't think of a better album artwork.
It's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
sweet.
like I'd love to know the history of that. Like, what is that? You know?
It's old and it's new, right? It's like this old kind of picture of this like ray gun, this like
Right,
space
yeah.
laser.
Yeah, I think there's some relation with the name Foo Fighters is something it's a fighter jet, right? Or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. But UFO, he was big into UFOs at the time too, so that's why that ray gun thing is probably in there. But yeah, it's cool. It's like a antique toy or something on there, which is cool. Twan, when you mentioned the or was it you, Tone? The Nirvana B side. Was it you, Twan?
Yeah, I just did. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually when I was re-listening to this album today. That was one thing that came to mind. It's like, these songs could have been, some of these songs could have been Nirvana songs, and I wonder, like, was he writing for the next Nirvana album and kind of just
Furthering my
help him?
claim that he might have been bigger into the Nirvana thing than people realize.
Oh yeah, good point.
Sorry, Mike. Sorry, Mike from last week. It's Dave.
I was gonna say yes. He was more than just the drummer for Nevermind. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Clearly, look at all these albums. I mean, holy shit.
Yeah, and it's not just Foo Fighters.
All right, so let's just have a conversation about it. We all have it at number 1, right?
Yeah,
The color and the
exactly.
shape. Just an
Yep.
all-time.
No,
all
I
time.
had Skin and Bones.
Oh, sorry. Live albums were out, bro.
Yeah.
Skin
Color
and
and the
Bones,
Shape.
great record. Color and the Shape, number 1 for all of us, it seems. Not surprising. Monkey Wrench, is there any? I mean, that song just fucking kicks ass. And when that Doll is a cool way to start a record, but when it jumps into that riff of Monkey Wrench, you're just like, I'm in for a ride, and I'm excited about this. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
And it continues with Hey Johnny Park.
Mm-hmm.
It's relentless.
Just riff after riff, right?
No pun intended, but I got another confession to make here.
Oh, you do you?
I didn't know My Hero was on this album. I thought it was just a
Varsity Blues
play, and then I realized it was on this album back when I was 12 or 13, whatever the hell it was. It almost doesn't fit.
Yeah, you're right. It is a radio rock single, right? It's a soundtrack single for a high school football movie. It doesn't. It's like, here, let's shove this in the middle of this record. It also is amazing. It's a great Foo Fighters song. Yeah,
all-time song.
It's just so good. And this is more a Dave just doing Dave. Like he had a band at the time, and most of them he re-recorded stuff because he was like, I'm better at this than you are. So we ended up with this amazing record. So it's just so good, man. Everlong, there is not a better rock song than Everlong, alternative rock song than that. So
yeah,
I can't say enough good things about this record. There's no misses.
Yeah, this would be a great album to hear front to back. You know, even the somewhat ballads, February Stars is so good. Twan, when you said I got another confession to make, I was like, maybe we should edit that for the actual I got another confession to make.
If only we had the rights.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta get Dave on here. I feel like the sweet spot for this album is the fact that it was also 97. So I mean, we talk about it on here a lot. Like we were getting into music, like fully understanding music, probably in 1997, like in particular. So it's like that perfect storm. But it really is their best album. I mean, at least we all agree on that. And there's probably so many reasons as to why. You know, what mood were we in? How old we're all kind of like the same age and everything. down to the cover art. Even the cover art's like simplistic, but it's got like that Foo Fighters font that they kind of sported for a long time. In fact, this is the album that I ran to Virgin Megastore to get signed by the Foo Fighters at Irving Plaza. But yeah, there's no skips on here at all. And then My Hero, I remember that music video. I remember my dad being like, I like this song. I like this. I like what this music video message is telling. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. Firefighter saving people. Pretty neat. It's on like TRL or whatever. And like you said, Tone, Everlong, like that song is, I mean, it's just like you can't overplay that song, which is strange because some songs get old after a while, but that song's just so pure. And yeah, this
I
is
got
the
a
number
question
one.
for you guys. Is
Yeah.
Everlong the best closing song that isn't the closing song? Because it should be the last song on the record, but it's not.
Wait, do I have Neuralink implanted and you're dialed in? Because
You're thinking the
I'm
same
on the
thing?
wiki, and I'm thinking Everlong is not the last song.
And it should
And
be.
it should be.
But it
Should be.
also, but honestly, Walking After You is a great like come down after that song, and New Way Home is a great closing song. It's an
Yeah.
underrated, overlooked Foo Fighters song, but that's a cool song. And but Everlong is like of all songs that could have been a closing song on an album, how is Everlong not the closing song on this album?
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially because every time I've seen them live, they've closed with Everlong, and it's a perfect closing song. Yeah.
It'll probably close out the playlist 2 weeks in a row because it did last
Wow.
week too. It was the live version from Skin and Bones. This week will probably be the regular studio version.
So I'm trying to think, like, if there was ever a statement album, it's this, because you get Grohl, who's in the biggest band on the planet for Nevermind, for Nirvana Nevermind. He comes back. Some people might think he's, piggybacking on the fame of Nirvana, drops self-titled, and I think we all thought it was great. It's obviously, I think it was number 2, but maybe not for everyone. And then he comes back 2 years later and like has this basically a fuck you album. Like, this is, I'm good and I'm here to stay with color and the shape.
Totally. It's a record saying, yeah, the last album was good, and maybe people knew about it because I was part of Nirvana, but I'm also really fucking talented. And here it is for all the world to see. This album's badass, and you guys can't take that away from me now, 6 years after whatever. So that makes complete sense.
Yeah, that must be really interesting. In his shoes, like he's got nothing to prove being in Nirvana, but he's got a lot to prove because he's, I don't know, the drummer of Nirvana, which you think would be big enough, but I mean, this band's 25 years old and it's one of the biggest bands in the world. Like, holy shit, unbelievable.
So, Tone, you made a comment early on, maybe it was even before we started, that there's no bigger rock band, right, in the world. And
Right now, yeah.
I think not only is there no one bigger, but I think there's probably no one better. I mean, I don't know who's going to top them. I mean, who's
right now? I think
who's even
nobody.
in the running? Kings of Leon,
Yeah, and they've got an album coming out in a couple weeks that we're excited about. But yeah, I
like
don't think they're on,
yeah, I don't know.
yeah, they're not on this level as far as like old school rock. Gonna give you riffs, gonna give you, drums, guitars, bass, all that stuff. Rock vocals, like they're it in a dying genre, as dying as it is. But we still love it. We're still down for it, and a lot of people still are. And these guys are still doing it at a pretty high level if you think about it.
Yeah, I was just jogging my memory on who's going still, like, and the ones that come to mind are like like legacy acts like U2 and the Rolling Stones.
Yep.
Like holy shit. So Foo Fighters are in that caliber. I mean, that's impressive, man. Being a drummer from a band to make a band that's at least equal value of Nirvana, like what? You really hit lightning twice. So
Yep.
I wrote I wrote a few notes here that Dave Grohl is a certified nerd for the Audio Slave podcast, because he's not only making amazing music, but all the things we covered today on today's podcast, which is like he's doing it for himself. He's doing it for nerdy reasons, like making a documentary, making a half acoustic album, half rock album, making an album in his garage in California. Like, I mean, that's a real, it's just like such a nerd stance, So certified nerd officially as of today.
And he's so well connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So do you guys like the name? Is it a band Vantage or a Bandicap?
It started off as a Bandicap. It ended up being a Band Vantage.
See, I totally agree. I'm not going to say I don't like the name, but like Foo Fighters, like it works because they're good, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all it is. If they were bad, then we'd be like, this name's stupid. they're not bad. It's awesome. It's them.
Yeah, usually the handicap is what the connotation is. So fight has a negative connotation. So immediately your brain thinks this is not good. But Foo Fighters have proven that false. So it's great. But yeah, there's so many band names that suck, and they're the biggest bands in the world. Even like I said, U2 earlier, like that's not really a good name, But it works. If for some reason, actually now more than ever fits, just down to the logo. But
You know what? U2, if they spelled it out like YOU
TOO
TWO, it'd be terrible. What's that?
yeah,
or TOO.
Or
U2?
Yeah, U2.
U2,
It'd be terrible.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't work.
U2.
It does when it's just the not phonetic, but the alphanumeric or numeric alpha, right?
Is that what they were thinking of Apple? Yeah, it's on your phone, U2. It's on
Yeah.
yours too.
It's on yours too, yeah. Half the
Yours
world
too.
got this random album that nobody wanted. How do we ended up here, guys? The tangent episode.
How to dismantle an atomic bomb.
Yeah. Cool. All right, that's our Foo Fighters episode ranking the legacy bands top or their 10 records, putting them in their place. We'll see you guys next week, right?
Back at it, baby. Thanks for listening.
And one thing for Dave Grohl: in nerdery, we trust. ... Dave Grohl.
Nerdery runs deep.
Did he say that?
No, but I wrote all those quotes earlier in the
Oh,
text.
I thought he said that. That would be even better. Can we get him to say that? Just keep tweeting at them. I'll just keep tweeting at the Foo Fighters. Be like, hey, Dave, can you just say in nerdery we trust? Just for us, just for once.
No,
like,
just go, hey, D, like you know him. Hey, D.
yo, D.
PG.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Peace, podheads.
Cheers.
Peace.